Revision of the town's signage ordinance remains an unresolved issue. At a recent town council meeting, as was alluded to earlier this evening, testimony was heard from many of the town's business owners. This testimony respectfully pointed out concerns, and some offered solutions that were both respectful of our historic town and what's needed for the 21st century. Despite that meeting, nothing has happened. What will you do to recognize the points of view expressed at that meeting, and how will you get this issue moving along? Let's have Mr. Arrowwood go first.
There are a lot of things that Chestertown has not done smartly to address its business community. It has a long history of sort of obstructicating and dragging its feet and not really being very progressive and nimble. And the sign ordinance is an example of its lack of nimbleness. I believe that when you look at all the subject matter that's involved with a sign ordinance, it's not complicated, but the ordinance itself is hard to read. It's a little like stereo instructions. And one of the things we can do right away is to strip away all the verbiage and understand that a consistent design helps sell the town. And you sell that to your businesses. And they have to understand that when the things look good and they look uniform and it makes sense, it's actually better for their businesses. And that point has been lost in a lot of this discussion. A lot of conversations have been concerned over the technology involved in updating the signage. And I think there is a level of decorum that you can maintain and still do a good job. But again, taking the impact of the community and really evaluating and helping them understand a unified system for the whole town, not for the historic district and the upper town district and the plaza, so we can all have one big picture, I think is the first thing you do. Then you need to set a reasonable timeline for that ordinance to go into effect. And you need to make sure you write an ordinance that is enforceable. One of the biggest struggles I've seen with a lot of the ordinances that we've seen come through council in recent years is that they're simply unenforceable. And that's the main thing I think we need to work on.
Thank you. Mr. Heyman.
Look, you want to have enough time out there to get all the input, but I think you also have to create that. There has to be a deadline. You can't just leave it open forever and drag it out. So I think you have to get all the interest groups, all the ideas in together, and just kind of put them in a room and have the deadline just to work together to find that compromise or agreement. You kind of have to bring it to the town. You don't want to walk outside the theater here and have it lit up like the Strip in Las Vegas. But I mean, I think there is a compromise somewhere to allow the businesses to advertise as they can in other towns that surround us, but fit into the character of the town.
Ms. Brown.
To me, ordinances are not etched in stone. They're no more than policies and procedures that someone sits down and writes. It's not like you can't go back and review and make changes as needed. So my opinion on this is to go back, take a look at what has been done, take a closer look at what needs to be done, and work from that point. I believe that if any sign ordinances come into play, that you would have to really sit down with the people that want them. Not everybody may want them. But you need to sit down and have a conversation with them, do some compromising if necessary, and change things. We're human like everybody else. And again, nothing is etched in stone.
Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, I think ordinance can be amended and changed. We're in a social change. It's changing. And I live in Los Angeles, I saw signs everywhere. And I saw, the media with the signs, and people want signs to advertise. That's how you draw people into your business. I mean, that's how you do it. But when I went over the bridge and went to Somerville, the firehouse has a digital sign. And it looks good. And I said, wow, this is great. Somerville has a vision. I went down by Easton, every store has a digital sign, just about. So I come back home, I said, wow. It would be okay to have a sign somewhere. A lot of people want signs and some people don't want signs. But we're changing. I think, Chris, you said it. We're going into a digital era. So, why not have someone want to advertise the business so they can draw people in? So my position is, as I always said, I agree with signs because it let people see excitement. There's no lights going on. We walk out the door, it's going to be quiet and no lights. Let a sign go up and loosen up and let us enjoy Chestertown. That's my position. Let's go to the future.
Ms. Kuiper.
I couldn't, if, I wanted a workshop with the Planning Commission and the businesses. All the businesses that came to the town meeting presented beautiful, concise and exact wishes for their businesses. And you're exactly right, nothing's happened because the mayor wanted one person in the town office to address each issue with each individual business. If nothing's been done by the first Monday in January, I will have workshops with every business in Chestertown to develop a new sign ordinance.
Thank you. How about you, Mr. Serino?
I think it's important that people realize why we have a sign ordinance. And I think this campaign is a great example because self-interest in terms of signage isn't always in the best interest of the community as a whole. As a candidate for mayor, I want to have my signs freaking everywhere. I want people to see them on every street corner. I want them to be in flower pots and tree wells downtown. Well, guess what? That looks like crap. So you need to have some modicum of quality control so that people are on a level playing field. I just want to put that out there because I think people see even having a sign ordinance sometimes as being anti-business when in fact it's simply a modicum of quality control so that we know that signage doesn't completely come to dominate the aesthetics of the streetscape. And I think that's especially true in our national landmark historic district. And I know the case that everybody talks about is the LED sign on this theater. This theater did a phenomenal job of rehabilitating this facility and wanted an LED sign on the front of their building. They got a negative recommendation from the Maryland Historic Trust and the Planning Commission concurred. We made our recommendation to the mayor and council. Nothing was done, and I think basically the can was kicked so that they didn't have to deal with a very controversial issue just prior to an election. But I do think that we need to be a little bit flexible, whether we go from one sign to two signs, or whether we change the size of the signs. There's definitely room for flexibility. I think it should come from the business community, and we do need to make some alterations without compromising the aesthetics that we enjoy that make the town special. And it's a very fine line and a difficult line to balance.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question from me.